Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and I can't wait to jump into this one. For this video, we're going to be looking at some of the best builds I've done previously, but what builds hold up the most with limited buffs. Some people don't want to go through long buffing routines, have to do a whole bunch of different things. So for the purpose of this video, we're just going to be using our talismans, our tiers, and then whatever Ash of War we have. We're going to find out which builds are best with limited buffs, hopefully have a lot of fun with this video, and for those of you that don't like insanely long buffing routines, this might be for you. We're going to start here with the Warped Axe. I really like this one, especially if you use a Roar, which I guess is technically a buff, but we're using Ashes of Wars for the purpose of this video, as I stated at the beginning. This is a really good one. The Warped Axe is amazing in heavy affinity, gets excellent strength scaling, and I'm going to show it off a little bit after this too, because it's also awesome in frost affinity as well. Cold affinity is what I meant, but you get 125 frost buildup. I'll show it after this fight. I ended up using this fight first to show off heavy affinity. She's pretty resistant to magic damage anyways, and then we'll show off how much frost buildup and damage you get in cold affinity. Overall though, the charge attacks are pretty insane without buffs. The fight goes on, this specific fight goes on a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but ultimately still, the charge attacks are great, jump attacks, etc. You're going to get a lot of damage on a relatively light weapon. This weapon, in my opinion, for its class, is probably one of the most broken of its class, given the insane scaling, good base damage, and the ability to use it in a whole bunch of different affinities and get great strength scaling. Basically, whatever affinity you're going to use, I think you get an S in heavy, but everything else is pretty much going to be an A in heavy. You get a great amount of damage in return from your strength stat for this specific weapon, and we're going to look at stuff specifically like this. Some obvious stuff in this video, but some less obvious ones like the Warped Axe, because they take advantage of really high AR for the class, and this dragon ends up hitting me a whole bunch of times after she goes down. I guess he decided to stay there. Anyways, amazing weapon, amazing Ash of War. If you use it with Braggart's Roar, it's excellent, and some seriously powerful charged attacks. And let's jump into equipment for this one here in a second. I guess I could have cut that out. I forgot to cut that part out. I usually just talk to her after I end the fight because she just keeps talking for some reason after you. She'll just continue talking until you talk to her. But let's jump into equipment now, stats, everything you need to know for this build. We have the Warped Axe in heavy affinity with Braggart's Roar. We have the Highland Axe in the offhand for the passive. We're using the Gravebird chest piece, part of the Rakshasa set, Axe Talisman, Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman. If you're not staying at full HP, you could use the Claw Talisman, Roar Medallion, Green Burst Crystal tier, Spike Crack tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 35 Endurance, 70 Strength, 12 Dexterity. Do not worry about the 14 Faith. You can put those stats elsewhere. I started as the Confessor class for all of these builds. That was the character that I was using. You do not need 14 Faith. Without changing literally any of my setup whatsoever, I want to show this real quick in Cold Affinity with Frost buildup. It's pretty incredible. Now on Roars, you get a status effect multiplier. This isn't a colossal weapon, so it's going to be 2 times rather than 3, but you could build up Frost really fast. This is excellent in Cold Affinity. You don't need to put too many points into Intelligence either. You don't have to worry about that much. You can put some if you want to, maybe 20 or so, but ultimately you're still going to go heavily into Strength because you're going to get an A in Strength scaling, and this weapon scaling with Strength is insane. Plus you'll get more physical damage, and of course the Frost build-up as well. This is definitely a highly recommended one for me. I really love this in Cold. It's excellent in Blood Affinity too, but I'm not going to show that off because we've already kind of highlighted the Warped Axe here a lot anyways. And one last slam down, and we're able to take down Radon. And easy fight, ultimately, using this in Cold Affinity, a great weapon. Sort of show this real quick. I never had this happen before. This guy got stuck on the elevator. I can't stand this guy, so I know that's for all you guys who don't like that guy. I knocked him down the elevator, but yeah, he got stuck. That was pretty funny. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that guy. He's always annoying right before you fight Renala. Anyways, we're going to jump to the next one, which is Prayerful Strike. This one's not going to do a ton of damage. I'm just going to state that outright. A lot of these other ones are going to be better for damage, but Prayerful Strike is one of the most reliable Ashes of War in the game. It's kind of like discount Blasphemous Blade, except you get a lot more poise damage instead of regular damage. Of course, the Blasphemous Blade is going to be better overall, and you bet it made this list too. But as far as Prayerful Strike goes, it is incredibly reliable, and it'll keep you alive. Even in this fight with this dragon, which goes on for a little less than 2 minutes, about 2 minutes or so, I only had to heal once, and actually, I'm pretty sure that I didn't even need to heal when I healed. So this is one of those situations where you're not going to have to heal that much, and the entire fight, no matter how long it goes on for in most situations, it's going to keep you alive. Even if you have to heal a couple times, you're getting back pretty much a flask every 2 hits you get with Prayerful Strike. You get a ton of HP back with this Ash of War. It's certainly one of the better ones without buffs, because fights typically, if you're not using a ton of buffs, they could go on for a bit longer, so you gotta want an Ash of War that can keep you alive throughout the fight. Especially in DLC and Sacred Affinity, you're gonna do well with Prayerful Strike. In the base game, I like Prayerful Strike with Heavy Affinity. It's solid for that. That way you don't have to worry about the holy damage resistance in the late game. But ultimately, since fights are a little bit longer without using an insane number of buffs, we're not using body buffs, aura buffs, etc. We're not poison proccing. We're not doing anything crazy here at all. This is going to be one of those Ash of Wars that you definitely should look at. If you're just going to run into fights, this could definitely be really useful for you. You're going to get some posture breaks too. The poise damage on Prayerful Strike is also excellent. Prayerful Strike, and yeah, it's an amazing Ash of War. Definitely one worth picking up and trying out. If you're one of those survivalist types and you find the Blasphemous Blade is a little bit too easy, this is pretty much the perfect compromise because it takes more skill than the Blasphemous Blade, of course. As much as I love the Blasphemous Blade, it's basically hit one button. In this case, you're going to have to fight around it and find the right windows because it's a little bit slow, but you'll get the healing too. We have the Sacred Great Stars plus 25 preferably with Prayerful Strike. You can check out our armor set there. We have the Sacred Scorpion Charm, Shard of Alexander, Ritual Swords Talisman, you're going to be healing a lot, Arsenal Charms plus 1 or Great Jar's Arsenal, Holy Tier, Green Burst Crystal Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 29 Endurance, 22 Strength, 15 Dexterity. We have 65 Faith for some good damage with Prayerful Strike. We're not doing any buffs. Check this out. Any additional buffs? We have 83 Poise. You're going to want some defense with this one. Next one on here is a hell of a weapon. I love the Anvil Hammer. It's incredible, honestly. The charge attacks are insane. The jump attacks are insane. You don't need a ton of buffs. And guess what? I've got a setup for you. We're going to get over 1,000 AR with this weapon. It's an excellent strength and faith weapon, and it's probably my favorite weapon from the DLC as a whole. I love this weapon. I love strength and faith, and this does everything right in that category. If I'm going to quite literally sell you on a weapon on this list, it's going to be the Anvil Hammer because I love it that much. This is one of those weapons where if I wasn't creating builds all the time or jumping on and doing different things and testing damage, and in this case testing stuff without buffs, which I tested around 30 or so and ended up coming up with my top 10. I did miss 2. I'll mention those later. I'm getting distracted here, but I digress. Back to the Anvil Hammer. The Anvil Hammer itself, truly incredible without buffs. I would put it higher on this list, but I know, of course, there's bleed and other things you can do that are going to do more damage. But if you're looking for a strength and faith weapon that's excellent, the Anvil Hammer is so much fun to use. It's a great bonk weapon and a powerful weapon at that. We have the Anvil Hammer plus 10, of course. We have part of the Rakshasa set and Gravebird chest piece on. We have the Fire Scorpion Charm. We have the Claw Talisman. We have the Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Axe Talisman. Then we have the Flame Tier, Spike Crack Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this build for the Anvil Hammer, we have 60 Vigor, 18 Mind, 32 Endurance, 54 Strength. That's going to be over 80 when you two-hand this, 30 Faith, 15 Dexterity, 11 Intelligence, 51 Poise, and it'll give you over 1,000 AR in the base game. And the next one up here is a fun one, but it's a very obvious one in the Giant Crusher with Royal Knight's Resolve. You do not need to buff like crazy. You just need to drink your tier. You're going to do great damage, 3,700 damage there. Let's try to get in another hit here, and another 3,700. So yeah, that's a lot of damage, over 7,000 in those 2 hits, and then one more hit additionally. The Giant Crusher is incredibly reliable. The AR alone is going to carry you. It doesn't need to be buffed like crazy to be good. As long as you're able to land hits with its relatively long charge attacks, you're going to do a lot of damage with this weapon. And of course, we got over 4,000 damage there. Yeah, the charge attacks on this are truly ridiculous. Just drink your tier, use Royal Knight's Resolve, and jump into the fight, and you won't have any problem. Now, you do have to use Royal Knight's Resolve every time you want to get a charge hit off, but it's part of the playstyle of using that specific Ash of War. That said, you don't have to buff like crazy, and you still get great damage. Let's jump into equipment. Alright, and for this one, we have the Heavy Giant Crusher plus 25, preferably Royal Knight's Resolve. We have the Gravebird chest piece on, part of the Rakshasa set. Arsenal Charm plus 1 or Great Jar's Arsenal if you have it. Axe Talisman. Two-Handed Sword Talisman. We have the Claw Talisman. And then we have the Green Burst Crystal tier and the Spike Crack tier. Let's jump into stats. For stats, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 35 Endurance, 70 Strength, 12 Dexterity. Once again, don't worry about the 14 Faith. My starting class was Confessor for all of these. And of course, no additional buffs. We're able to hit 51 Poise and get some good damage too. Next one up here is a personal favorite. Now, I didn't want to add Bloodflame Blade. I think Spinning Weapon would beat this if we're adding Bloodflame Blade, but that's kind of an additional buff. Since you can't run that in Occult Affinity, we're going to go with Spinning Strikes here, which is also incredible. And this in Occult Affinity with the Gravesight, just drinking our tier, can do a lot of damage and can build up a lot of bleed and successive attack power without additional buffs, which most of you are probably looking for that are checking out this video. I know a lot of you guys have gotten a lot of comments lately that basically are saying that they don't want to have these long 30-second buffing routines, so I figured I'd put this video together for you guys. But after you get a posture break, by the way, it's pretty much over with this. We're able to stack up 32,000 damage on the Hippo. I think it ended up being 35,000 damage. Probably would have been more had he had more HP. We're on Journey 4, by the way, for all of this video. Ultimately, though, an amazing Ash of War on a really cool weapon in Occult Affinity. Let's jump into equipment. And we have the Occult Gravescythe, plus 25 preferably, with Spinning Strikes. We have the White Mask, part of the Rakshasa set, and Solitude chest piece on. Blissen's Prosthesis, Shard of Alexander, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Wingsword Insignia, or Rotten Wingsword Insignia if you have it, Thorny Tier, Greenburst Crystal Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this one, we have 60 Vigor, 19 Mind, 32 Endurance, 17 Strength, 18 Dexterity. Don't worry about the 14 Faith. That's from the starting Confessor class. Put those points elsewhere. 65 Arcane, of course, for Occult Affinity. Good damage here. And now we're going to get in some bleed builds here. We have Repeating Thrust, an amazing Ash of War, especially if you're not using buffs with the Iron Greatsword. This one actually appeared in my last video. Turns out it's also amazing without buffs. You don't really need buffs for this one too much. The jump attacks are pretty good too. You get good poise damage with the Iron Greatsword, and of course 130 bleed build up and close to 700 AR and blood affinity with these stats, which is pretty incredible. And of course we're taking on Rolana here, and she's a pretty difficult boss. I would actually say this is Journey 4 with DLC Plus as well, so that's in there too. But on New Game Plus 7, when I did New Game Plus 7 builds not too long ago, about a month or two ago, I'll leave that video in the description below. She actually was one of the most difficult bosses in the entire DLC. I had more difficulty with her on New Game Plus 7 with DLC Plus than I did with Radahn. And granted, I practiced Radahn more when I learned how to parry him and whatnot, but ultimately, she's a really difficult boss as you move through journeys. It's actually surprising. Let's jump into equipment. There's a mistake made here. I'm going to explain it in a second. We have the Blood Iron Greatsword with Repeating Thrust. We have the White Mask. Blissen's Prosthesis. This is supposed to be the Shard of Alexander there. Lord of Blood's Exaltation. Wingsword Insignia. Rotten Wingsword Insignia. Greenburst Crystal Tier. Thorny Tier. I was testing different things. I forgot to slot it in. I would have gotten even more damage on her. 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 28 Endurance, 40 Strength, 45 Arcane. Once again, don't worry about the 14 Faith. That's from my starting class. You can put those points elsewhere. Speaking of the Shard of Alexander, you won't need it at all for this build. We get a total of around 30,000 damage in 4 jumps with the Scavenger Curved Swords. Of course, this is the longest one technically if you're counting the Ash of War's buffs. It's going to take you about 10 seconds in total because you're going to drink your tier and then you're going to activate one seppuku and the other seppuku. So each one individually, it's around 10 seconds or so. It's the only one in this entire video that's decently long. Every other one is about 3 to 5 seconds. But still, we are using Ashes of War, of course, after all, and we want to get the most damage we possibly can out of this too. Trying once again to get good damage without the additional buffs. Now, towards the end of this fight, I missed several of the jumping hits, so I could have gotten a lot more damage. It's just the way I was hitting on the side here. Eventually, at the end here, I end up missing some of these. And yeah, could have taken him down probably in that final jump, but I missed a couple hits on the way down. You want to make sure all 4 hits make contact. Sometimes it's difficult to do that. But ultimately, still, the Scavenger Curved Swords are incredible without additional buffs with just seppuku and your tier. They're going to be great damage, and I love these weapons. We're getting, by the way, around with seppuku 550 AR in each, and close to 90 bleed buildup. We have 2 Scavenger Curved Swords in Occult Affinity, plus 25 preferably with seppuku. Part of the Rakshasa set, Greybird chest piece and White Mask on. Blissen's Prosthesis, Claw Talisman, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Wingsword Insignia or Rotten Wingsword Insignia, Greenburst Crystal Tier, Thorny Tier. We're using Moog Shackle to stun the boss there. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this one, we have 60 Vigor, 16 Mind, 28 Endurance, 12 Strength, 20 Dexterity. We have 14 Faith, but don't worry about that's from my starting class, the Confessor. You can put those points back into Arcane, which will give you 75 to 80 Arcane for this powerful build. And the next one up is another one that's probably not too surprising. Of course, we're going to be using Guts Greatsword. It's going to be Savage Lion's Claw or regular Lion's Claw, but in this case, I like Savage Lion's Claw. Now, I do like the poise damage consistency on regular Lion's Claw, but for Savage Lion's Claw, you're going to ultimately get more damage, in my opinion. 3,000 damage there. And, of course, you can get some poise damage as well. I think regular Lion's Claw ultimately gives you more poise damage as you go throughout the fight and land it. But for regular physical damage and making use of Guts Greatsword, I have a lot of fun with Savage Lion's Claw. I think it was an excellent add in the DLC, and it makes Guts Greatsword even better in my opinion. And when you flip in the air, you can actually avoid a lot of attacks. Sometimes you get clipped like I did there, but ultimately, for the most part, you're going to be able to avoid some attacks with that second jump too, because you'll be pretty high in the air, and then that second slam down, if you complete it, most bosses you're going to get anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 damage, and that's without additional buffs. That's just using our tier, talismans, and running in with Guts Greatsword. This is an amazing weapon, one of the best weapons in the game, and Savage Lion's Claw is a great Ash of War too. Really fun to use. Definitely recommend this one if you want consistency. Let's jump into equipment. And we have Guts Greatsword and Heavy Affinity. Of course, with Savage Lion's Claw, we have the Graveber chest piece on for regular jump attacks and Rakshasa set, Shard of Alexander, Axe Talisman, Two-Handed Sword Talisman. We have the Claw Talisman. Once again, I like mixing in regular jump attacks too. Green Burst Crystal tier, Spike Crack tier in case you get off any charge attacks. This gives you a versatile build. Let's jump into stats. We have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 35 Endurance, 70 Strength, 12 Dexterity. Once again, the 14 Fates from the starting Confessor class. Don't worry about that. You can put those points elsewhere. And we, of course, hit 51 poise too. And now we've moved to the completely obvious ones. Ice Spear is incredible. It doesn't need to be buffed. It still does a ton of damage, a ton of frost buildup, poise damage, pretty much everything you want in an Ash of War, and it's incredibly quick too. The damage is going to honestly be incredible. Let's see the fourth one here. We stacked up 7,000 damage. You're doing this quickly though. This Ash of War is very fast. Poise damage around 25 poise damage per hit. Even on New Game Plus 7, you can break bosses. This is Journey 4, but you can break bosses with this on New Game Plus 7. It's an incredible Ash of War, fantastic one. Let's jump into equipment. We have the Guardian's Cold Sword Spear, plus 25, preferably with Ice Spear, part of the Rakshasa set, Magic Scorpion Charm, Shard of Alexander, Ritual Swords Talisman, Melissen's Prosthesis, and then we have the Magic tier, Green Burst Crystal tier. Let's jump into stats. By the way, I avoided the Bloodsuck and Crack tier for pretty much all these builds except the next ones for obvious reasons, because you kind of need health buffs to kind of combat that. We have 60 Vigor, 60 Dexterity, 28 Endurance, 21 Mind. Don't worry about the 14 Faith, that's from the starting class. And the next one, of course, is the most obvious one on the list, and that's the Blasphemous Blade. You don't need a ton of buffs to use the Blasphemous Blade. Of course it was going to make this list, and of course it was going to be number one. It heals you with the Ash, it does a ton of fire damage. Covered this weapon a ton of times, but if I didn't put it on this list would have been pretty inaccurate. This is the easiest weapon to use in the entire game, and it's not even close. Yeah, this is good old reliable. Just used my tier here. I ended up using the Bloodsuck and Crack tier for this one because this is the only one I find it easy to use with, because you're constantly healing back HP, so you don't need any additional health buffs or anything. You could just run it, heal back any HP you lose, and then use your Fire tier and Bloodsuck and Crack tier to get great damage out of the Blasphemous Blade without any additional body or aura buffs or poison proccing or any of that. It truly is a ridiculous weapon, and of course it's going to carry you if you just want to run into fights. This is going to be the perfect weapon for you. If you find it too easy, I recommend Prayerful Strike, which I did a build for earlier in this video. It's definitely a good compromise. It takes a little bit more skill to use. Let's jump into equipment. We have the Blasphemous Blade plus 10, of course. Part of the Rakshasa set on, of course. We hit 51 poise. Fire Scorpion Charm, Shard of Alexander, Two-Handed Sword Talisman for any charge attack or regular hits. Talisman of the Dread, of course. Great DLC talisman they added. Bloodsuck and Crack tier. Flame tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 21 Mind, 28 Endurance, 22 Strength, 15 Dexterity. We have 65 Faith, of course, for this build to get good damage out of the Blasphemous Blade's Ash of War. Of course, we hit over 51 poise, and we're doing great damage with an awesome weapon. And thanks for watching this one. Thanks for tuning in to my top 10 builds that are great without additional buffs, without having to buff like crazy, jumping into fights, and moving away for the purpose of this video itself, away from what people refer to as YouTube builds. Be sure to sub if you want to see more Elden Ring content. I'm going to be checking out the last Berserker soon too. I recorded this video earlier in the week, but I'm looking forward to that. Cannot wait to try that one out. I'll probably do a review for that game as well. Catch you in the next one.